The war, so not the war, the war to the poor started. The war to the poor, actually the war against the kids, poor kids, started from the Republicans. Now it's not only the war against the middle class, the war against the poor people, and now the poor kids. Practically, they want to abolish, especially Newt Gingrich, with the support of Donald Trump, the children labor laws that actually protect kids against being exploited. They don't talk about the possibility for a kid to be educated and at the same time balance some time of his life to work, so they learn and at the same time to put into practice. They want to do the Apprentice for kids, which is the most humiliating things, which means to put a group of kids in school that are poor, one against each other, hate each other, try to work as hard as possible, like exploiting practically kids, and then throw them out because there should be a winner, the apprentice. The other one, practically, you are not good enough. You are not only poor, you are not only in the situation in which your parents, they're working 2-3 jobs to make you feel comfortable, you are also humiliated by the fact that there should be a kid that is better than you are, and you are kicked out like the apprentice. Are you serious? This is the level in which we are? Please look, have a look with me to this interview with the guy in the New York Times that wrote a wonderful articles against how Newt Gingrich and the Republicans and tries to have a war against the kids, to hate these poor kids. Newt Gingrich made an example, and the example was, you know, I admire so much my niece because she saved money so that now she bought her iPad. I'm so proud. Sure, of course. How much money are you fucking giving on a monthly basis to your niece, you fucking billionaire? Are you serious that this girl is saving money? Which money? Your money. $700. Find me one poor kid that can save $700 to buy an iPad. They don't have even parents that they can afford with 3 jobs to save $700 to have food on the table for a month. This is so disgusting, has no limit. So have a look at the video and have a really good time.
Can call Newt's War on Poor Children. Thank you both for being with me.
Absolutely.
Charles is one of my favorite columnists. I tell him I read his columns on Saturday morning to get my message for my Saturday morning rally. But you were off the chain, as they say, this Saturday. What is Newt saying? What is this the base, what the base of the GOP wants to hear?
I don't know if it's what they want to hear, but they do respond to this sort of demonization of the poor. And what he's saying, I mean, you can only take him at what he says. You can't say, well, what he meant was, because I don't know what that means. I can only analyze what the man says. And he's saying that, you know, these very poor kids don't have anyone around them who works. That is not true. First of all,
hold 1 minute. Let me quote blow to blow. A little blowism here. You wrote accurately 3 out of 4 people living below the poverty line have a job. This is in your column.
Absolutely.
And see, I think, and I quoted some data on Friday night, but I was glad that you put it in the New York Times on Saturday. Because most, I mean not most, but a lot of people don't understand that people that are poor are not necessarily people that don't work.
Absolutely. And what Newt was saying was they don't have a habit of getting up and going to work on Monday and staying all day. That's probably true. too. You know why? Because they have a habit of getting up at night and working all night and working on the weekends, because a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday is actually a luxury for people who are actually working jobs that don't pay enough to get you out of poverty. So everything about that comment was grating, because a lot of it was absolutely false. And even if you look at the absolute poorest kids in the absolute poorest areas, and for our analysis we looked at areas where the 30% of the households were poor or more, even among that group, a third worked, and in the poorest areas, 66% of kids in that area live with a parent who works. So even if the parent that you're living with is not working, you see people constantly coming and going back and forth to work. This idea that nobody in these neighborhoods is working is just outrageous.
No, well, what I said on Friday night, if Newt came to any urban center, come to New York, Chicago, wherever, go to a housing project early in the morning, you see floods of people rushing to the subways or to the public transportation to go to work. What is he talking about? Young kids in those areas don't understand a work ethic. But Dana, the politics of this is that Newt is going up in the polls, which is even more alarming to me.
Yeah, Reverend, I suspect one may not be related to the other. Because
I hope not.
Take a step back here. It's not just Newt going back to 1995, 1996. And the welfare debate. He's, going back to the Gilded Age and the robber barons here. Donald Trump and Newt Gingrich are members of the same country club here, and now they're, getting together and talking about, when are we going to repeal the child labor laws here and have child janitors. Now, as a father of a 7-year-old, trying to get her to clean a room, I suggest to you that the idea of a child janitor program is not going to go anywhere. But Newt Gingrich just has a way of sort of spouting out whatever is in his professorial brain at the moment. Sometimes it's quite smart. Often it's quite zany. And the problem is when you get this kind of spotlight over and over again, the public is gradually going to see that the guy is a little bit erratic once you see him all the time.
Well, let me say this, though. He's not alone. Look at this. It seems like the whole cast of Republican candidates, and I say cast since they're going into the reality show business now, have declared a war on the poor. Look at this.
Continuing to pay people unemployment compensation is a disincentive for them to seek new work.
Accountability to welfare and accountability to unemployment benefits is going to be a prime thing that we focus on. I still want drug testing. I still want.
We have put in so much entitlement into our government that we really have spoiled our citizenry and said, you don't want the jobs that are available.
If you don't have a job and you're not rich, blame yourself.
I mean, and those are not all candidates other than, well, even the last one is no longer a candidate. But this is like what we hear in Charles. And the thing that bothers me, as you know, President Obama had Newt Gingrich and I go out with Education Secretary Duncan in 2009, visiting schools. Newt knows better, because we went to inner city schools. He saw kids that absolutely were striving to educational excellence and came from families, some with single parents, who worked every day. He knows better. They're feeding into this kind of welfare queen, kind of, as Dana said, 1994, 1995 politics, and that is what is so disturbing.
And that is why I don't mind taking him to the woodshed, is because Newt knows better. Newt knows that child labor laws are meant to protect children from being exploited, not to prevent them from working. You know that in New York State, you're 14 years old, you can get working papers in school. They just want to make sure that you're healthy, that the job does not have you work more hours than that you can't do your homework, things like that. He knows better. Some of the people he's speaking to, he's basically just playing to a stereotype, and that is wrong, and he knows that. I know that, as Dana was saying, sometimes he spouts off, but then he's had this before him for now 3 or 4 days, has come back at it several times, has yet to apologize, has yet to make it right. So he should be taken to the woodshed on this.
Oh, and he showed his repentance, or that he wanted to show himself to be accountable by going to Donald Trump. That's how you really straighten out your position on poverty. But Dana, he's managed to do one thing. If you think President Obama did something, getting Newt and I together for a minute, he got Whoopi and Elizabeth Hasselbeck together today. Look at this.
I'm as offended as I've been, I think, for a long time, because to paint all children who are not lucky enough to be wealthy as potential pimps and prostitutes. You talk about dignity. You didn't give them any dignity when you made this statement.
That won't work. It's distant. There's no heart in it. I don't understand how he even could defend those statements again.
I couldn't believe it, Dana. Elizabeth and Whoopi and Reval on the same page.
I mean, it's not as good as seeing you and Newt together there in the White House driveway, but I'll give you that. It's a close second. So, the politics here can be dangerous, not in the Republican primary, which is what he's fighting now, but when you go for the independent centrist voters, they're okay with you picking on people living off the public dole on welfare, but it's different when you're talking about kids. It's different when you're going after unemployment insurance, available to 15 million Americans. It's different when you go after Medicare, which tens of millions of Americans are relying on. These aren't really classic welfare programs. These are broadly accepted programs, and talking about our children.
Dana Milbank, Charles Blow, thanks for coming in. Thank you both for your time.